This is Jim Fetzer from James Fetzer News, interviewing Stephen Lendman about Aafia Siddiqui, a young Pakistani woman recently convicted in a New York court. Stephen, tell us about this bizarre case.
Oh, it's the most horrific case I know, Jim. I've written about 24, mostly Muslims, bogusly charged by the Justice Department. One woman, all men and one woman, Aafia, the one woman, and her case is absolutely the worst. She was charged, the initial claim was she was picked up with incriminating documents in her briefcase, her handbag, and one report had her having toxic substances along with it. Completely bogus charges. They never appeared in the indictment. The indictment was that, well, first off, she's a Pakistani. Her mother lives in Pakistan. She went there to visit her. She left. She went to the airport, traveling to Rawalpindi, I believe. Pakistani intelligence sources picked her up, turned her over to U.S. authorities. They took her to Bagram. They kept her there for 5 years. They brutally tortured her. They raped her repeatedly. They destroyed her, absolutely destroyed her. This frail 110-pound woman, an MIT graduate, a Ph.D. from Brandeis in neurocognitive science, and she's not the woman she was before. Anybody who's seen a picture of her after what she went through, you can see her before and after pictures. They don't look like the same person. It's unbelievable what they did to her. The indictment said that they had her in Bagram. She was tied down to a table. They released her. She was behind a curtain. She got up and she peeked through the curtain. There were 5 or 6 U.S. soldiers, CIA, FBI people there. I believe a translator. I don't know what they needed a translator for. She speaks English. The charges were that she grabbed the rifle of one of the soldiers, opened fire at point-blank range, hit nobody, and a soldier shot back, hit her in the belly. Another bullet hit her in the side. What she supposedly shot hit nobody. There were no shell casings. There were none of her fingerprints on the weapon. The weapon wasn't fired. There were previous bullet holes in the wall behind where she said she fired into. A picture confirmed that. She's absolutely innocent, Jim. They framed her. They're using her as another Muslim in the bogus war on terrorism.
I've been quite taken by the connection between the use of torture to extract confessions and the phony war on terror. It seems to me, if it were not for the use of torture, which every intelligence official in the world recognizes does not produce truthful reports, but rather attempts to pacify the interests of those who are conducting the torture, I think Bush and Cheney would have had no evidence at all to support their fabricated war.
Oh, absolutely, Jim, and no evidence either against virtually everybody they've charged. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the supposed 9/11 mastermind, Zakiya is related to him through marriage. I think that's the association and why they picked her up. Possibly her husband was involved. You made the point earlier that she went through a nasty situation. A divorce, a struggle for her children. She has 3 children. One of them was released on condition he say nothing. The other 2 disappeared and never heard from again. I think they were killed. Maybe they tortured them. I don't know what they could get out of young kids, but I suspect they killed them. Go ahead, Jim.
It's completely frightening. And even the case of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the alleged mastermind, he was subjected to waterboarding some 183 times and wound up confessing to some 31 terrorist attacks, including events that had occurred when he was a child and others after he had been incarcerated.
Oh, absolutely, Jim. And I wrote about him in an article or two. They did a lot more than waterboarding. It's amazing, 143 waterboardings. But they put him through brutalizing torture. And again, you and I know, everybody knows, everybody watching this knows that if they torture you badly enough, you'll say anything they want you to say to get them to stop. So Mohammed said what they wanted him to say. The other alleged 9/11 plotters, they did the same thing. Everybody at Guantanamo, at Bagram, at the other black sites, they do it too. And they admit this stuff in court cases, and they actually intimidate juries to convict innocent people. It's shocking, it's shameful. This stuff has gone on for many years, but it's gotten worse over the years. And torture, Jim, is official U.S. policies. It's right out of the Bush administration documents. The same thing is true for Israel. It's amazing what these people do and get away with it.
I understand that the judge in this case wouldn't allow her to talk about her rendition, her kidnapping, her torture, her rape, that he restricted it exclusively to this allegation that she had attempted to murder these Army and CIA officials. And it just seems on its face extremely implausible, Stephen. I'm a former Marine Corps officer, and she had no training with these weapons. She may have had a course to use a handgun at some point, but this is not child's play. I don't see how she could possibly have committed the offense with which she is charged.
Oh, absolutely, Jim. I mean, you know, if you were one of the people there and you had a weapon, can you imagine this frail woman? She was in such bad shape, aside from being frail, but a frail movement, getting the best of you and grabbing your weapon and opening fire at close range. I mean, if it weren't such a tragic story, it would be laughable on its face. And I have to believe that the jury really wrestled with this, thinking, my God, what are we doing? But at the same time, the prosecutors scare them into thinking that just maybe the charges against her are real. And if they ever let a dangerous person out, they could never forgive themselves. But again, the same story is repeated over and over again. And then the judges are in the tank, Jim, to not allow exculpating evidence to be admitted to the defense. And they also use secret evidence. The defense has no access to it. The whole process is rigged. It's a kangaroo trial using bogus charges to railroad innocent people to life in prison, the death penalty, whatever they want to do to them. And we call ourselves a democracy, Jim.
Stephen, I think you're completely right. The jury appears to have been intimidated by the psychology of fear. None of the physical evidence substantiates the claim. They had no DNA. They had no bullet holes. They had no shell casings. In fact, an FBI agent, Stephen, testified that there were fingerprints on the weapons, but they were not Aafia's.
Amazing, Jim. Absolutely amazing. And this comes out in open court, and the jury doesn't realize that, my God, this thing is completely fake. I saw a humorous thing, Jim. With all the wars we fight, illegal wars, illegal occupations, I forget the exact wording, but the little quick one, something like, don't get us mad at you, or we'll bring our democracy to you, too.
Well, it's become that bad, Stephen. I mean, in the past, the United States has been the most admired and respected nation in the world, but now, after the Bush-Cheney administration and its seeming continuation of the same policies under Obama, we are the most reviled and despised, along with our close ally in the Middle East, Israel.
Absolutely. And if you want an axis of evil, Jim, throw the UK in there too. And my God, the long history they have. They know how they were beaten in Afghanistan, and they're back in there again, and they're allied with the US and all of our illegal, lawless policies. And Israel, absolutely. Israel is about as bad as it gets. And it's spawning an exodus of Jews there, Jim, who simply can't stand it and simply want no more part of the Israeli state.
Stephen, I can't thank you enough for your good work, and I am grateful for you to come on for this interview.
Oh, Jim, I'm happy to do it anytime. My first YouTube